Okay, hey guys, this is a really quick tutorial on how to use Pixlr to create some characters for the games that we need to make. So what we need to do is open pixlr.com, and when we come up with the opening GUI, what you'll see is this Pixlr editor. And what we want to start with is create new image. Now, one of the things that we need to consider is, number one, obviously what we're going to call it. I'm just going to call mine character. And one of the things that I think is really important, because we're creating a character and we don't want it to have a background as such, we need to actually make sure that what we're creating is transparent. So make sure you click that button. As far as creating a character for scratch, having width and height of 800 by 600 is fine. Although it's very, very tiny, it's ample for what we need. And click OK. Now, what you're presented with is this little floating window with a bunch of grey and white checkers. The grey and white checkers represent transparency. That's that button that we clicked initially in order to create that image. Now, one of the things that I think is really, really important to understand is the concept of working in layers. Over here on the right hand side, you'll see that we've got layer 0. Down the bottom, there's a little tab that looks like a page with a corner sort of curled up on it, and when you hover over it, it says a new layer. One of the things that I want to start with is by clicking that and creating a new layer. I've got layer 1, and I'm actually going to create layer 2 as well. Now, over here in the tools that we have, we've got a bunch of things that are really useful for image creation. First of which is a drawing tool, which basically gives us some rudimentary shapes to begin with. If I click and drag with the ellipse tool, it's going to give me an option for creating an ellipse. I've got options up the top here. If I click to choose different colors, and whatever color that is up there, that'll indicate what color we're going to end up having for our shape. Now, as I start dragging and creating, we start to see that we can start to build up very rudimentary shapes to start putting together a few ideas for a bit of a character. Now, the reason why I originally started drawing those layers, if I grab this move tool, if I click and move this around, that's all linked and it's all joined into one layer. However, if I went on to layer 1 and I make another shape, if I click that move tool, that's going to allow me to move things independently. I can also then reorder that layer by grabbing, clicking and dragging and moving it down underneath. So what I end up with is a good option for moving things around. And I can start to build up and create and design a character. Come up onto my top layer, say I want to now get away from using these basic rudimentary ellipses and rectangles and shapes. Say I want to start painting something that's a little bit more organic. Grab a paintbrush tool, decide what size brush I want. For the purposes of what we're doing, these blurry ones, they really don't work. What we probably want for a character design for something like this is to make sure that we've got something that's either a hard-edged circle, square. Some of these can work quite well too. For example, if I grab one of these, come over here and pop in some pretty interesting looking eyes, and excuse me, start ending up with something that looks kind of interesting for this little froggy here. Grab a different brush, grab something a bit smaller, pop in a couple of nostrils, and maybe even a little mouth there. Really basic stuff, guys. Now, the thing when we now are happy with our little character and we want to save it so it's compatible with Scratch. File, save. Now, the thing we want to do is change this JPEG JPEG format is great for photographs, but not so much for character designs, dropping them into Scratch. We want to actually change that to a PNG, and we'll notice here that it says transparent and full quality. So what we'll end up with is an image that doesn't have this white background around it, it's just the image itself. I click OK. I'm just going to save it to my downloads folder for now, called character, and away we go. Now, if I pop straight over into Scratch and I go, oh, I want to now upload sprite from file, I can grab the character that I just created. Whoop, that's a JPEG one. Watch what happens here. That's got a white background on it. That's no good. That's not the one that we want. I'm going to delete that one. Come back over here into Pixlr. If I now go File, Save, I don't want that JPEG, I want that PNG, transparent background, OK. Saved into the same location. Replace. Now if I come into Scratch and I upload a new sprite from my downloads folder, character PNG, open it up. See the difference? We've ended up with something that doesn't have that background around it, and it's far more useful for our game design.